Because we're going to be.
Welcome to Founders Live Reno.
That's right.
As the city leader, you're launching it. And
First one.
Welcome to Exploring Greatness, David Ezell. How are you?
Man, I'm good. I mean, we've been in Reno almost a year now, getting acquainted with the city. Founders Live has been on the docket. One of the first things that I wanted to do when we moved here, since I used to be in Dallas, wanted to move that same energy here. Yeah. So tonight's the night.
Dude, it's it. And I've been waiting for this moment for a long time. And, you know, it's cool because we go way back. And we're going to talk a little bit about that. Dallas, I've traveled, toured, and hung out with you before, but now we're in Reno, and it's a special time. But as I tour, I really love to sit down and just get the stories from people and entrepreneurs, founders, and a lot of our city leaders. And so thanks for sitting down.
You got it.
And you know what I want to do is capture a bit of your energy, not only about Founders Live, about what we're doing here, but even some of your experience. You've created things, and you've got a unique experience. You work corporate jobs and marketing and branding, and you have a view that a lot of people don't, in the sense of sometimes inside these major companies that we all look at and we're like, whoa, But you also have a view of early stage startups as well. So, but first and foremost, man, what drives you as a creative, entrepreneurial person?
I think it's always exploring your creativity and exploring that optimism. I feel like for a lot of entrepreneurs, you're kind of a tinkerer. There's all these ideas that are always coming through where you're like, man, I could do that better. Is this an opportunity? Let me run the numbers. Let me see if this is something I want to do. Starting a podcast, YouTube channel, it's a creative outlet. It's so far removed from the day-to-day of what you do at your corporate 9-to-5 job, where that list of things to do is pretty definite. Yeah. This gives you creative outlet, and the world doesn't have that yet. And so you can fill it with your own creativity. And I think coming from some of those bigger companies to working with entrepreneurs, being an entrepreneur, I think a lot of times people see those people, it's like, okay, well, CTO or some big role at Google or Microsoft, and you're like, man, who are these people? They're completely different than I am. Yeah. And then when you have them on a Zoom call and they're on your team, they're like, oh, you're in your sweatpants too? I'm in my sweatpants. They're very down to earth. They're the same people. That divide or that gap that may be perceived from entrepreneur to big successful company is all imaginary. Yeah. It's just putting in the work and doing it. The person grows, but that person could be you. They're not operating on some completely different playing field. They don't have super knowledge that you don't have. It's just they put in the time and work. And that's what I love about entrepreneurship, is if you see something and you want to build something, there's nothing stopping you. Yeah. Nothing's in your way. It is just blue ocean. Go get it.
What do you think separates the real entrepreneurs from everyone else? And not to say that everyone else is not as worthy or not as equal, but there's something different about founders and entrepreneurs. What do you think that is?
Honestly, I think it's the ones that are willing to hear no, willing to keep going, willing to eat crap for a while. The PC version of how Gary Vee says it. You have to be willing to do that, because as you're going, nothing's going to turn out right when you first start. Your iteration 3 months later is going to be completely different than on day 3. And you have to be willing to buckle in and say, I don't care what other people say. I don't care how many times I get told no. That yes is out there. Yeah. And that yes is going to be the step to launch me to that next thing. Yeah. And I think it's just that people get stuck in their own heads of, well, if I fail, if somebody tells me no, my family's going to see it and they're going to say, I told you so. Your friends, you post it on Facebook, it fails, you're going to be like, I told you so. It's the perception. Yeah. Yep. And if you can get rid of that perception and just remember that people don't care and think about you the way that you think that they do, they care about themselves, right? Yeah. They're caring about themselves and what's going on in their own life, which is a good and a bad thing. But from an entrepreneurial standpoint, forget, because they're not thinking about your entrepreneurial journey. They're focused on their own worlds. So focus on your world and go build it.
Yeah. I think you're definitely down the right road, and you're on point there. And what I would share, and we kind of talked about this a little bit previously, is I think we founders, we see the world differently, in the sense of, as a boxer, you just keep taking the hits, and your turn for that hit is coming. Right. And entrepreneurship is the same way. And I think you all probably watching are in the mindset of, a no is a no. Yes, it can be frustrating. We've all had those
for sure.
Damn it, no's. But the next one up could be a yes.
Right.
And also, when you have a vision and you see the world a certain way, the great ones don't care what anyone else thinks.
Right.
Because by definition, we see a unique thing. We see an angle or an opportunity that most others don't. Because if they saw it, they would have actually acted on it.
Right.
Right? So, that's kind of...
It's all in the action.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we get in our own head. We talk ourselves up, we talk ourselves down. We get too far out over our skis about this business I'm thinking, oh, well, it only has this certain monetary limit or customer base as a ceiling. That's as far as I can go. Maybe I can't do that. There's 20 competitors in that space. It's going to take me a long time to stand out. Instead of saying, I don't care who those 20 competitors are. I have a unique advantage. No one else is me. I'm going to go get it anyway. And you're right, it's that creativity. I think entrepreneurs do see the world a bit differently. I think a lot of times they get bored when they can't, because you always want to be building. And the lessons you learn as an entrepreneur in the first week rival what you would learn at a corporate job in the first year. Because there's no blueprint. You're building it. Yeah. You're sitting down in the morning and saying, okay, well, today sucks. How are we going to make it suck a little bit less? How can I get a win? How can I make it to tomorrow? And then how can I make it to Friday? And then you just keep building, And it's a progress and it's a journey, but it's awesome.
So let's go a little bit in your experience. I know you've had you've kind of dipped in and out of startup and entrepreneurship and then working at a larger corporation.
Yeah.
In your experiences of starting your own, what was the biggest hurdle that you experienced that you can maybe dissect a little bit and share?
Yeah, probably our imposter syndrome, where you want to charge a certain price, but you don't have the confidence in yourself that people should pay it or would pay it. So you always come from the standpoint of, well, that's okay, you can't do that. Let me find something that works better for you. You're always underselling yourself. So it's the confidence part, I think, especially when you're starting, especially if you're younger, maybe you have 5 or 10 years experience in a field, graphic design, whatever the case is. You jump out there and it's like, well, yeah, this is gonna be $8,000, $10,000. It's hard to stick to that sometimes. When people say, ooh, that's expensive. So what? You're right, it is.
Yeah.
But it's hard to stick to that sometimes if you're not confident with what you're bringing and willing to hear that no. So I think that was one of the big things for me, is hearing that no, starts to get to you because it's just you. There's not another founder, it's just you. Yeah. And those no's kind of start to pile up. But instead of dwelling on the things that you can't change, memory of a goldfish, you keep on going. You figure out what messed up, what maybe you can pivot, and you use that knowledge for the next one.
How did you overcome that then? You felt that imposter syndrome. Was there that you clicked into place?
I think I would think it's probably a little bit different. For me, it was just a mental thing of picking yourself up. It's that looking in the mirror at yourself. Because I can talk to my entrepreneurial friends in that same way, they understand. But everybody else, my wife, people that have a 9-to-5 don't get it because they don't live that world, and it's a different foreign language. So I think it was really looking at myself in the mirror and being like, well, you can dwell on the guy that told you no at 4:00 yesterday, or you can keep moving forward. You can figure out how to go back to him and come up with something that's going to work better for both of you, or you can keep moving. But either way, sitting right here and dwelling's not going to do anything.
It's not the answer.
Right. So I think a lot of it is just self-awareness of yourself and self-awareness of how you want others to view you, and you have to put both of those a little bit in the foundation and keep going.
I like that. Let's shift to Founders Live. You are a veteran city leader. You started, your first experience with Founders Live was in Dallas, in Texas. Yeah. You helped launch it really, and you really get it solidified. What attracted you to Founders Live to be a city leader?
Great question. So right around that time, I think this was 2018, I wanted myself, because that's when I had my business, I wanted to get better at public speaking. I didn't have the opportunities because I was still fresh in my entrepreneurial journey in my own professional career. And I just happened to come across a listing where you were looking for a city leader in Dallas. And of course I love entrepreneurship, so it seemed to be kind of the best of both worlds. And I reached out to you, and similar to what we've been talking about, that first event, I was terrified. I was hoping the building would catch on fire so I didn't have to go, thinking of all the things that could possibly go wrong. But also, like we've been saying, nobody that came to that first event was there to see me. They were there thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
Where did I park? Do I need to go get dinner after I leave here? They were consumed with their own life. Nobody cared that I was there. So again, it's some of that mental focus of shifting and focusing on delivering value. But I also knew that Dallas was a great hub for entrepreneurship. And so this allowed me to be able to cultivate a network, get myself out there and work more on my public speaking, not moving my arm around all the time when I'm holding a mic, which I still struggle with. I need to just like tape it down, you know? But all of the things, and it made me better from that perspective, gave me a whole new network, got to meet you and Luis, and rest is history.
Yeah. And we're gonna get to Reno in a second, but what, okay, fast forward into like there's a point with Founders Live as leading the city where you're just like, you know the ins and outs. It in some ways is rinse and repeat, but it's also awesome because each and every event kind of is different and it grows. And at that moment, maybe talk about that feeling of just like how did it fulfill you?
Yeah, so I would say it's probably 4 or 5 events in. Like after that 4th or 5th one, you've got your cadence down from what I need to say, how I need to run it, making sure that I'm greeting people when they're coming through the door, because I want to control that event from start to finish. I want people to have an unbelievable time at Founders Live so that the whole time they're here, they understand it because that's within my control. And I think each time that I did it, venue might change, all of that kind of stuff, but you find little creative things that you can pull out that make one event better than the next and better than the next.
Yeah. So what is it about Reno that, you moved here, family and just lifestyle and all that good stuff, but you were very quickly like, hey, you left Dallas, and I was like, oh, but then you come here and you're like, I want to launch it here.
Yeah.
What is it about Reno that you see that potential for growth, entrepreneurship, and even Founders Live?
Yeah, so Reno's completely different from Dallas, much smaller metro, but very, very strong on the entrepreneurial side. So I have family here, and we had been visiting Reno for like the last 2 years, probably, sporadically. And every time we'd come in town, I would try to find like a startup event that I could go to, just to start networking, just to see what the pulse felt like. And Justin Berg, who's here, he's with EDAWN, he's fantastic. I had met him at 3 or 4 different events, and we started to become closer. And as soon as I moved, we went and had coffee, and I told him about Founders Live, and he was like, sounds great. And Nevada is kind of similar to Texas in the way that there's just a lot of growth happening. It's a smaller city. Vegas gets all the notoriety and all the pub, but Reno has its own ecosystem, and entrepreneurially, it's growing. I mean, there's VCs, there's all kinds of stuff happening in Reno, and same thing as we mentioned a while ago, it's just another great way to dive right into the network, the community, all of that kind of stuff. So I did it for those reasons. For me, it gets me out of the house. I get to meet like-minded people who want to build businesses here locally, but also I can give something back to Reno so that hopefully in a year or two, we see one of these companies that pitched here tonight and it's like, oh man, they just got funded. They just got purchased, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So what are you excited about for tonight? It's the launch. It's the first Founders Live Reno.
First one. I'm excited to see, I feel like people are going to probably come in a little, not hesitant, but I feel like they're going to think it's like the corporate after work setting. And so my job tonight will be to have music playing. I want them to be loud. I want when people are walking by on the street out here, they can hear ruckus coming from down here. And they're like, what's going on in there? And that they come to the front to come check it out.
Yeah.
That's what I want. I want it to be that thing that, again, that you can feel it when you leave. You're like, God, I can't wait till the next one. And I want connections to be made, and I want it to be that staple where anytime somebody starts a business in Reno, they have to come here first.
Yeah. Well, we're going to be rocking. A Founders Live city leader interacts with a lot of founders, and you've seen it in some ways. I can say you've probably seen it all. I know people say that to me too, but you've seen a lot. And let's go with two advice for when founders are presenting. It's a Founders Live event.
Yeah.
what is 2 or 3 things that you would just say, you got to do this? This is how you nail the Founders Live experience.
Great. And I try to kind of reiterate this to a lot of the founders whenever we're working up to this day. It's keep your pitch simple. I mean, it's not throw out the bathroom and the kitchen sink and every single thing that your company does.
Yeah.
Your goal in this is to get attention, and you want them to ask more questions. You want to invite intrigue and for them to say, wait, tell me more? That's what you want.
Yep.
Secondly, don't have 12 slides. I don't care if you have FAQ slides, all that kind of stuff. Your pitch should be like 2 to 3 slides. My most successful ones that I've seen, I mean, there was one in Dallas. This was like the 3rd or 4th event. This girl just had her business name and her email address, and she told a story for 99 seconds. Crushed. I mean, as soon as I was like, all right, time's up. Who has questions? Whole room, everybody.
Yeah.
Because I mean, people can't listen and read at the same time. So keep it simple. And then third is work the room. Don't just stand there and feel like you're trying to beat the clock for 99 seconds. Pick 2 people on the back side, on each side of the room, and talk just to them, because then it makes you visually feel like you're working the room. Find somebody on the left who's 7 rows deep, find somebody on the right who's 7 rows deep, know their eyes and their face, and talk to them for 99 seconds, because then it will visually give you the appeal that you're working the room, because you're spanning back and forth and you're looking behind the people standing on the front row. And so I think it's just having the creativity and the stage presence in yourself, keeping everything else simple, and tell a story. I mean, people get attached to why you get out of bed, why did you start it, not just some AI widget for the sake of making another AI widget. Tell me why. Tell us the pain point that started it and the crap that you're going through, and let's talk. Because I mean, people rally to causes. People want to get on board with somebody that they're like, oh, yeah, he's living it. How can I help? I want to know more.
Dude, those are so good. You're a seasoned city leader for sure. I'll add to that, as you're talking about, they're in the moment, they're on stage, they're pitching. Yeah. What I would add is, it's a counterintuitive thing and it takes a little skill, but as a founder, you need to calm yourself back down and be yourself. When people are nervous, and when they like build it up in their mind of like, oh my gosh, and by the way, some people, 30 people, they're nervous, or it's 100 people in the crowd, they're nervous, but it throws everything off in the sense of they sound robotic. They're trying to memorize, repeat what they memorized for their pitch. And
they've been working on it. That
doesn't work, okay? Right. And so to add to what you just said, my advice, the advice is like, although it's difficult, you gotta calm and chill and be yourself. And the confidence will come back. And then, as you said, you're picking like 2 people out, and now you're you're more in the moment versus totally up here in the head. And so there's a lot more, obviously, but I think, again, we've seen it all, and you see, within 20 seconds, you're like, that's gonna be a good one.
Yep.
Or you're like, oh.
It is, and getting up in front of people and talking about the thing that you're so passionate about and working on diligently is hard, because, rejection, especially at that level, when it's just you and you're building and you're working until 2 a.m. or Saturday, whatever, you're building something and people are, don't vote your product to win Founders Live, and it feels demoralizing, but a lot of it is constructive feedback. How can I get better? What are the things that I need to do so that I can be better prepared for the next one? And it's just, instant learning. That's why I think Founders Live is so great, is you get feedback right away.
This is why I created it. And I think initially, the story, but like first event, I was just throwing a party and having a good time. Pretty quickly, I was like, oh, there's like gold in here.
Yeah.
And after probably the 5th or maybe the 8th one, definitely that first year, I was like, oh, and you could see, the value is actually putting people on stage. They're nervous. They're like, but the learning experience, it's like a crucible to go through, and the feedback is great. And people, even if they don't win, they come up to you and they're so excited and they're so thankful. And that's what you get to experience as a city leader. And it when you get, and speaking to future city leaders here, when you get in that motion and, again, like David said, it's your fourth or fifth one, it's just beautiful because you look forward to getting people in the room. You look forward to those people's lives changing and they're coming up and thanking you, and it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, it's just switching the focus. Yeah. Switching the focus. I mean, that was the biggest thing, takeaway for me, going from, say, that first event to, say, the fifth event, was switching the focus of everybody's looking at me to how can I put the focus on the people who are pitching tonight? How can I make our sponsors feel overly loved? How can I make sure that they have such a great event that they want to sponsor the next one? Yeah. So I take myself out of, oh God, everybody's looking at me, to I'm the facilitator. The eyeballs are going through me and they're going to these presenters. How can I make the presenters feel more at ease? Yeah. So when they show up, I will walk them up to the stage while everybody else is mingling and music's playing, hand them the clicker and say, hey, you're up second. This is how it works. Here's the clicker. Here's the mic. Here's what I'll do. Because then that kind of relaxes them a little bit. They're not just sitting out here on an island by themselves saying, well, I don't know what to expect. Is he calling me up? Am I supposed to wait in line? What happens? I want them to feel so confident and so comfortable and lower everything so that when they get up there, we've already talked about it. Here's the clicker, press through, here's the mic, and we're done.
Listen to that, especially all of our city leaders. That's great advice. As we come to a close here on this, let's go with a bit more advice that you would share with entrepreneurs. And like I said, I mean, you've had your experiences. You've grown companies. You've now worked at larger companies, Yahoo and now Meta, and so you've seen large operations. You've seen major budgets, and you've seen zero budgets. So, combine all that to say like a couple things that you would share with founders and early stage entrepreneurs that you think they would find valuable and helpful.
So, I think a lot of times we have this idea that if I'm not the next Yahoo or Meta or Google, if I don't get acquired, then it's a failure, But my favorite mantra in all business, in everything you do, in the way that you show up, and again, I'm a brand guy, so that's the world that I live in, is how can I deliver, under promise and over deliver on everything I do. And my biggest thing is bigger's not better, better is better. I mean, you don't see Harvard or Stanford saying, if we only had satellite offices in Texas and Connecticut and, Florida, then we'd be better. It's like, no, you have one and you do you're really good at what you do. Yeah. Better is better. You don't have to have hundreds of millions of dollars of raise or any of that kind of stuff. Social media distorts it. Don't look at any of that. How do you feel as a human? Are you doing your life's work that you are passionate about and, is an outlet for your creativity? Doesn't matter if it's just you and your dog and maybe a partner along the way. Is that what it is? Great. Yeah. Be the best that you can absolutely be. Don't worry about scale. Scale can come or it may not. Scale's not always the best thing. Focus on being the best possible thing. Focus on making that coffee that's just like, Starbucks, none of that. This is the best coffee I've ever had. Make that coffee. It's focusing on better, not bigger.
It's huge, and we've talked about this previously, and Founders Live also, we fully agree with that. So I love that you say that, and but follow on to that. There's always challenges to grow faster or grow a bigger business or have a financial outcome. How would you layer that with, unfortunately, we all battle with yes, thank you, David, for better is better. But what about bigger? And what about the cash? And what about, do you have an answer for that?
Yeah, so one of the things that I wish that I would have done, and if I do something else again in the future, we'll make sure to do that, is find advisors and people on your team. Find people who, live, eat, sleep, and breathe the numbers, because that's not my world. Other people can do that and all that, but that's not my world. That's not my gift to give out. That's not my thing. So when you go forward, if that is the thing, have somebody on your team, whether it's a mentor or a co-founder, somebody else, that their sole job is that kind of stuff, that they're deep in the numbers, because then you can really feel out, okay, we've crushed this part, but maybe we want to expand to 2 or 3 locations. Does it make financial sense now? Should we wait for this other opportunity? It's not, it doesn't all have to fall on your shoulders. Find the people that are good at the things that you're not the best at. Join forces in that way. Find an advisor. There's tons of them. And then just strategize everything and have that one singular goal. Have all your numbers and everything else line up to that. And that will also help keep you from getting diverted along the way. New shiny object, potential partnership comes up over here. Well, does that make sense? Here's our budget, here's our financial plan, this is where we're going. If it makes sense, great.
Yeah.
If it doesn't, you don't have to lose sleep that you missed an opportunity. That's not your focus. That's just something that bypassed and was seasonal. Focus on your outcome, but find people along the way that can help you in those areas where you may be weaker.
Great thoughts, great advice. What's David most excited about for the next, the summer and the fall in 2025? What are you excited about, man?
Yeah, so I'm super excited for Founders Live. I'm ready for it to get kicked off tonight. We're going to try to do it probably quarterly, just kind of judging by the landscape of Reno. I feel like that's a good kind of spot to do, because then every event, the roster's full, build it out, all that good stuff. And I mean, summer and fall in Reno are peak fantastic. You don't have clouds in the sky for 7 months.
I noticed that already. Look at this. We're looking out the window right now, and it is crystal blue sky. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so it'll be like that until November. So I'm excited. Maybe we host some of these outside, but I feel like the entrepreneurship scene is huge here, and I'm just ready to elevate it, keep making that mark, introduce people to other people that could possibly do business together, and just keep going.
Well, David, thank you so much.
Pleasure, of course.
Love you, man.
Heck yeah,
you
too.
All right.